Hello, everyone. I want to take a moment and welcome you to today's Creditsafe webinar. My name is Nathan Kalb, and I will be your host today, as most days. And we will be covering analyzing your financial risk using 3D Ledger today in our webinar. Before we get started, I want to give you just a couple of key instructions. We like this to be interactive. We want you to be able to ask questions as things go. We want you to be able to interact with us and with myself, with the speaker, all that type of stuff. So while we're going through, if you look at the bottom of the window that has this in there, this video you're seeing right now in there, you will see a little text bubble set up that says Q&A. Please feel free to put stuff in there if you need to get a hold of us for something, if there's an issue that you're seeing, or if you'd like to ask a question, please go right ahead and fill that in. If the question is something that has to be answered right that second, I'll break in and ask that of our speaker. But most of the time, I hold those questions to the end, and then at the end, we kind of go back and cover everything and do that. So if I don't answer right away, ask the question right away, just know that it's going to be asked at the end of this presentation. So I want to make sure that everybody knows they can ask those questions and everything like that as we go along. Speaking of the presentation, I want to welcome Scott Garger with us today. He is a senior business development manager in Premier Accounts for Creditsafe and has been with us since Creditsafe started, the US company here. Scott's been in the credit field, the business credit field, for over a decade, holding multiple different positions at different entities and stuff. So we're just excited to have him as one of our folks here on the team. In his spare time, Scott is an avid golfer and sports enthusiast, but he has a young child at home. And so I'm guessing that right now, not just due to the pandemic, but due to just life, Scott's free time is a little bit lacking. But we're happy to have him from his home and helping us out here today to present this. So Scott, welcome.
Thanks a lot, Nathan. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem, and looking forward to this. So go ahead, take it away.
Perfect. Again, thank you very much, Nathan, and thanks everybody for joining us. I'm going to go over our 3D Ledger tool. I'd say it's more of an advanced product within the Creditsafe suite. Obviously our core product being data, credit scoring, credit reports. But this is something that I think a good amount of our customers know about and prospects know about, but I'm not sure all of them do. So I'm happy to kind of spread the word and go over some of the key features and some benefits that we have within this tool. It's a tool that comes along with the product for no additional cost. So I'm happy to dive in here. And what it is, it's really a high-end portfolio analysis tool. It allows you to easily analyze your existing portfolio, customer base, and it helps prioritize collection strategy amongst other things. And I'm also going to bring up a couple use cases that I've run across within the past couple months, obviously, since the COVID-19 pandemic. There's a lot more customers that are shifting focus from a real sales-driven atmosphere to reallocating resources into their risk and credit departments. So I'm going to kind of show you how they're doing that. And I'm going to jump in and really want to stick to three things. It's the thing about 3D is to get access to the data, one thing that you have to do is share your customer list and aging file. If you sign off on NDAs, it's perfectly fine. Obviously, we get that data. That data becomes anonymous within our database, and can end up on our business credit reports. But to submit that information, take any file format. Some submit to other providers, some don't submit to anybody. So it's very easy to get over to you and let you know, what data format we accept and that sort of thing. So it's very easy to use. It's you sending us the file, and essentially we do all the work, and we spit back all the cool statistics and everything else that comes with it, along with endless training if need be. So really the first thing, benefits of this particular tool that we have is credit risk banding. It's taking your data, marrying it with our credit data, and giving you a different perspective on your aging file. Obviously, customers usually have their own internal data that they're making decisions off of, along with some external data, but we take both, kind of mix it together and give you a really nice high-level view of how your customers are working with others, as well as yourselves. Then I'm going to go over some of the analysis that we do. So we do a deeper level of analysis within the Creditsafe 3D tool. That's actually my favorite part because I'm kind of a stat nerd, so I'll go over a couple of those things with you. And then obviously, I'm going to go into the reporting. So multiple types of reports and custom reporting we could get into, and we'll cover that as well. And then obviously field any of your questions. And as Nathan mentioned, I'm used to doing these types of things with a lot of interaction. So if anybody wants to shout out a question, please do. I don't mind being interrupted. But other than that, let's crack on from here. So the 3D ledger, as mentioned, everybody has access to this tool. And it's easily accessible via the Creditsafe login. So this is what it looks like when I actually log into the Creditsafe website as a Creditsafe user. And all the way on the left with all of our other tools that I know we've had some webinars about and probably going to continue, we have the 3D ledger. So, I mean, you're simply going to click on that 3D ledger. It'll take you to the different screen. And, this is where you can really dive into the product. As mentioned, you log in as you normally would, all free with the Creditsafe service. And companies of all type can use this. So I've managed Fortune 500 companies who are very active in this and have hundreds of thousands of customers to put into this 3D ledger tool. And managed companies that maybe have 50, 60 customers who utilize this 3D tool. It all works the same ideas. Some may use it different, but again, it can give you a different perspective on your existing customer base that's, again, outside of your own view. So when I click in the 3D ledger, what it does is it gives me a dashboard view. And that dashboard view is going to be like the first, let's just pretend this kind of the first time you send us your file. What we do is we take that file, we run it through an automated matching algorithm, and it spits out some results. And there's a couple things that can be done with that I can get into a little bit later once I get into the matching. But what we're going to do is we're going to be able to match a certain amount of records based off of how the data is delivered to us and the quality of that data. And what you're going to get right here is the number of customers and how much has been matched. Once you're going over a particular time, you're going to be able to see a month-by-month portfolio rating, and that month-by-month portfolio rating obviously can show improvement or decline in the rating of that existing portfolio. The 3D tool, as mentioned, sitting on the dashboard here, which is the high-level snapshot of the 3D tool. The unique thing about the 3D tool is that it is fully functional within 12 countries as we sit today, not meaning we wouldn't evaluate outside of these countries. So as you can see, Belgium, Finland, France that I've highlighted up there, et cetera. We will still be able to do analysis on those. It just won't be segmented into those particular countries for a deeper dive. What this screen will also do is it's going to show you just instant risk banding on existing customers. I like to go into these two graphs down below here that give you, it's kind of an interesting wake-up call. So you're able to see your internal age of debt, which is something that you already have. But what we do is we take that graph and we kind of flip it and put how do your customers pay others? You already have that internal graph of how they pay you. You know which ones are 91 plus. You know which ones are 1 to 30. Then we just take a graph and like I said, we just kind of flip it over and show you how they're paying everybody else. Not you. How are they paying everybody else? And maybe start focusing on some of those accounts, which I'll dive into here. Additionally, before I get there, what I wanted to show you is on the top right, this is kind of one of the FAQs. It's a frequently asked question. As soon as we jump into this, say, well, I'm an organization that maybe we're a holding company and we have 14 subsidiaries. My company has multiple divisions. my company, we classify things by, A to E and F to G, and whatever the case may be, this is how we classify our portfolios. You are able to set up multiple portfolios. So as you can see in the top right, we just have a dummy one named domestic and international, but you can name those for your multiple divisions. So you could track portfolios by the actual portfolio. You don't have to group everything together into one portfolio. So this enables you to do it by, as mentioned, product lines, divisions, subsidiaries. And I kind of dropped that 14 one as I personally work with one with 14 separate portfolios. And it's easily manageable. And what I wanted to get into here was the first, kind of scrolling down the dashboard, all on the same kind of dashboard page that you log into when you get into the 3D tool. It's the risk banding. So we know what aging looks like. You have your current all the way up to 91 plus, showing the total outstanding. But what we do is we take all of your accounts, and then right away we'll classify them within different risk bandings. And it's all about perception here. You, as mentioned, already see what is done internally from your point of view. When a company goes, into that 1 to 30, your next actions when it goes into 31 to 60, right? Are we sending a letter? Are we, giving them a call? Are we, what are we doing with these particular customers? Based on your credit policy, credit and collections policy. But now what we're doing here is we're bringing in some of these external influences, and this is what we're doing by marrying the AR aging with the Creditsafe data. And what this really helps you come to a determination of is which ones are easy wins, which accounts are easily collectible, in theory, right? Just because they're sitting somewhere doesn't mean they're easily collectible, but we're trying to improve that collection strategy, improve the win probability of making these collections. And the one I like to jump into right away here is companies that are very low risk. So what the credit risk banding is showing, it's showing our credit score kind of condensed, which is a 1 to 100 score or an A through E rating. And we're showing it in the A, B, C, D ratings along with your aging. And for example, right here, we're looking at the very low risk customers. So these are customers that Creditsafe has rated with a high rating. Essentially, we know a credit rating is driven a lot by, especially on private companies, how a company pays its bills, years in business, legal filings, et cetera, et cetera. But the main driver of U.S. private companies and business credit ratings is how they paid their bills historically. So what this would jump out to me as a credit manager, or obviously jumps out to pretty much everyone I bring on this demo, is, well, why are they low risk but they don't pay us on time? This is the first bucket that everybody really likes to look at and wonder, how do I get this money in? If they're paying everybody else on time, why aren't they paying me on time? And then there's, vice versa. They're a high-risk company. Why are they paying me on time, but they're not paying anybody else on time? Or are they, going through some legal issues? These are all things that can be analyzed differently based on the different buckets. And the cool thing is that everything is drill downable. I think I just invented that word, but everything is hyperlinked that you can click on. So for example, I'm going to want to click on this bucket that, if you could see it, it's about $146,000. And what that's going to do is going to bring up my list of customers that fall in that bucket. Again, as you can see here, you see it's the credit risk banding, very low risk. Meaning they pretty much pay everybody else on time, but I'm being paid 91 plus. And this will list out the customers. And there's a number of things that we could do here. And my favorite thing here in showing customers is not only doing this with this bucket, but doing this with the entire customer base. Within a couple clicks of a button, you could essentially do a credit check on 300,000 customers or 100 customers within the couple clicks of a button. Because what I could do is I can export all these lists to Excel. And when I export it to Excel, it's going to pull out the Creditsafe credit rating, along with obviously company information, your aging data, as well as your internal limit versus the Creditsafe recommended credit limit. So a lot of things that, strategically that I won't necessarily get into now, but a lot of things strategically that can be done with that data, whether it's, you have them with a we have them at a high credit limit recommendation and they're carrying a zero balance, or you're not extending credit to them, whatever the case may be, you could utilize this data and essentially do a credit check on tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of businesses within a couple clicks of a button. So I think that's pretty cool. The other thing that you're able to do is if you attended any of our 2 monitoring webinars that we had, is there is a button here, but just because it was demonstration purposes and I didn't have access to it, there is another button that says export to monitoring, meaning you can receive alerts on any of these changes. So if this bucket goes from an A to a B risk or an A to a D risk, you can receive alerts on those changes as well. So all of this is able to be imported into monitoring. We already kind of covered what you're getting on this particular screen. We're showing what ledger, what portfolio it's coming from, customer ID, which is your own internal ID that is stored within the software here. Credit rating for Creditsafe, credit limit recommendation from Creditsafe, your aging, and your internal limit. Now, what we're able to do is click on the customer record. So again, we're going down another level. We're clicking on the customer record, and at this customer level, you can essentially even drill down. It's not on the screen, but scroll down a little bit on the site, and you can actually go to the credit report itself from this screen. But what it will do is it'll give a nice summary of days beyond terms. So you'd actually go in to look at a 12-month history of this company's days beyond terms and benchmarking versus industry in your portfolio. A transaction grid. So if you're sending us details at the invoice level, you have a transaction grid for reporting and analysis. The risk tab, which will allow you for a historic credit score over the past 12 months. Again, benchmarking versus the industry in your portfolio. And notes, so any notes you want to leave on this particular customer, there's a section for that as well. And what you're showing here is essentially the Creditsafe dashboard that you would be familiar with from using the Creditsafe website, as well as any alerts that fall down below, and as well as your age of debt, which would be even further below that. I kind of jump back into the dashboard when we get out of the customer screen there. If we scroll down the dashboard, what we're going to do is we're doing essentially the same risk banding. The bottom section will, the top section here, but the bottom section of the dashboard, it's going to break down our credit score numerically from 1 to 100 instead of the A to E. So again, it's kind of the same function, just the different credit risk increments there. And right at the bottom, kind of a top 10 list. Okay, who are my top 10 accounts month by balance? Obviously, things you know internally, but it's nice to see where a lot of your revenue is sitting, and easily looking up the credit rating as well within dashboard view. That brings us to analysis. This is probably my favorite part. Again, you can really kind of geek out with this if you want to, and come up with all sorts of different strategies. But it kind of asks the question: it's what if I could take this data and spin it into something that could help something that's traditionally we don't look as a helper as credit management, or we usually look like we're stopping the deal, or there's bickering back and forth with sales. It's kind of an inside joke that kind of running joke that you're stopping sales from happening, or upsetting the salespeople because they just can't send a bill to somebody that wants to buy something, right? So there has to be a level of due diligence. But what if we could kind of give back, right? What if we could take this information and give it back into sales by doing some deeper reporting and analysis? So one of the things that we're going to be looking at here on the analysis tab is a breakdown, obviously very high level. It's an environment where you can just analyze your aging balance, look for risks. In the analysis tab, you'll be able to find a set of tools to analyze your data further that I'm going to get into. And the summary page offers a number of charts to show you how your ledger as a whole has changed over the past 6 months, a number of active accounts. And this comes with historical reporting, which can be given up front, just because you haven't reported Your aging over the past 12 months doesn't mean you can't give us the historical data for us to import in, but maybe you can only give us last month's aging. We could kind of move forward, and then these historical reporting actually will build up. And there you can see the active accounts on a monthly basis and historical reporting. Obviously monthly outstanding historically, and amount outstanding by age historically. What I really like to drill in here is there's a little button here, kind of go back. If I click on one of the countries up at the top, it'll kind of get me into that portfolio analysis. So let's just say I click on USA. And what this will jump into is, again, it's more stats, but now it's taking our customer base with our aging and now introducing other data elements into it. It's introducing legal filings. So, companies that have lien judgments, UCC accounts, you could actually look up by account, by those numbers. Some of legal filings, maybe they only have one tax lien, but it's a tax lien from the IRS for $600,000, and they happen to have a high balance with us. It was filed last week. Maybe I need to take some action. So again, more opportune ways to dive into the data there. So there's a number of things that we filter this analysis by. Obviously the legal filings that we see here, company size, which is going to break it down to number of employees and revenue. Industry, I'm going to jump into in a minute because that's one of my favorite ones, kind of being from a sales background. It's how to use this data to really mirror your best customers. Geography, which is going to cover city and state. And we should know these things, right? But do we really do a deep dive? I remember the first time this impacted me. I was on with a company that they were a manufacturer of bicycles. And then they just looked at the state breakdown, which they never really thought to look at before. And they were kind of wondering, well, we know we have a lot in Washington and Oregon, but why do we have so few customers in Texas or Florida or even Southern California? It seems like we're focused in certain areas where maybe we could be targeting business elsewhere. So again, these are just for eye openers, maybe things that you don't do very often, but find some value in, and I'm going to kind of dive into that in a moment. And again, loads of deep dive analysis to get involved in here, but just to kind of keep it high level. The other tab that you'll have over here is going to be the not rated tab. So very easily you can jump into the companies that aren't rated by Creditsafe because they either have a bankruptcy on file, they're inactive, they shut their doors and didn't tell you, which is unfortunate, or they just may have some sort of insufficient level of data, or maybe a bad match, maybe you matched it to a post office box, things that we could kind of work on with you down the road. So this is my, when I dive into this industry tab here, I really enjoy this because this starts to spark a little bit of creativity, right? So, maybe you only sell to the manufacturing industry. Maybe you only sell to wholesale. Maybe you only sell to medical companies that fall under those particular codes. But who within wholesale are you exactly selling to? Is it packaging materials, wholesaler plastic products? We could do a further breakdown here. So by actually looking at these tabs, you have a little plus button here that will allow you to expand these areas into their SIC code. So now in manufacturing, now we can actually see what industries within manufacturing, wholesaling, medical we sell into. How many dentists are we selling to versus hospitals and doctors' offices, right? So now you can get more granular and dig into these actual analytics of who your customers are. And, am I selling to restaurants or food trucks if I'm in food distribution, right? Am I selling to the corner store versus, so all these sorts of things that you could dive into are going to be helpful because number one, it's going to make you ask yourself, where does my risk lie and what strategies can I do to mirror my best customers and market to AB rated companies that traditionally pay us on time. So what we could do is we do this with a lot of customers where we'll take all of this data and we'll create your dream customer. I mean, at the end of the day, what we're doing is we're taking data elements about that company, like as mentioned before, company size, number of employees, revenue, how many years they've been in business, what industries they're in, obviously, since we're staring at that one right now. And take a bunch of these data elements and then we already have your customer list. What we're able to then distribute is, most importantly, actually look at what the ratings are and the average days beyond terms there are. So now we're not only factoring in the demographic data, but we're factoring in the risk data. So now what we can do is take all this data that's been inputted to us and output to you a list of companies that mirror your best customers. And you could sell it to the salespeople because they love new leads. I can tell you that 100%. Sell it to the salespeople that these guys look exactly like our customers, so you should call them and be able to easily close deals on them. And you know when you're giving them this information that they're A/B credit rating as well. So we could essentially filter a list for you on a marketing thing using these analytics, your own statistics to create a marketing list that's already pre-qualified for credit within the industries and demographics that are obviously important for you. And there's my industries, my little red box there. And as mentioned, the rating, days beyond terms of those particular industries. Again, the goal is, especially now, to target to lower risk companies. And then the third thing to kind of finish us up is our reporting. So we have canned reporting, as you can see. So what the reports tab will do, it will allow you to extract specific reports from your ledger environment. And the reports can be any format, CSV, XLS, XLSX, and what you'll be able to do is enable the option to receive notifications or send out reports on when your file is loaded. So typically what companies do is they take their customer list, their aging, they have a reminder for the first of the month, right? First of the month, second of the month, whatever it may be, there's a reminder, send file to Creditsafe in their calendar, right, in their Outlook calendar. So they send the file to Creditsafe. Once we load it, takes a couple business days. You get alerted on that fact that it's loaded, and your custom reports that can be emailed out to a number of people are available. So you just kind of have to tick the preferred areas. The other thing that we are able to do as well is do custom reporting. So we have a list of canned reports. Maybe those canned reports don't work for you. Maybe you want, the top 5 riskiest customers per industry. Maybe you want the top 20 riskiest customers based off of balance and credit risk. So there is custom reporting we can do for you. We get these requests all the time, and we see it increasingly popular, as mentioned, over the past couple months, because again, there is a closer eye kept to credit and collections, especially right now with dollars outstanding. The other thing that we have here, very high level as well, especially if you want to show your historic performance. If I rewind all the way back to one of the original dashboard tabs that we looked at, there was a little tab in there that says, whether your portfolio is improving or not, based on days beyond terms and credit risk. So we have the CFO dashboard report. So if you're feeling very good about what you're doing, obviously you have your own reporting internally, but it seems like to be a popular report on our end, where we could take all this information that we went over the past 15, 20 minutes and put it into a dashboard report and add your CFO's email address in there and make sure he receives that report on the in the first week of the month when you're finishing up with month end. That kind of ends it with the reporting section of it. Again, it's highly customizable. Ask us to do anything on the reporting end of things, it can be done. It's just kind of speaking with your account manager, speaking with us at Creditsafe, and coming up with a strategy to deliver that reporting for you. I do like to bring this up, 2 more slides here. First, we give a breakdown of the matching. This can be very important in the beginning of the time that you submit trade to Creditsafe, because we want to see there's always going to be a number of records that we just don't match. First of all, it's automated software that's going into this and looking at your file. So abbreviations. If the address says attention accounts payable, right? We might not have a match, right? So we might have some issues matching based off of business name or maybe addresses or just data at input, because there's no controls around data input when you're bringing in new customers. So data could get dirty over time. So really important exercise is when we get your file and we look at the matching, there's some nice reports and graphs and fun stuff we could send out around that. But what we're able to dive into is see, well, why aren't we matching? You know, are we inputting information incorrectly? Is something wrong with our workflow? Is it something that needs to be handled in sales when the salespeople are actually putting in the company name? You know, are they putting in the correct legal name? Are they doing abbreviations? I know working in sales a lot, we're not the most meticulous with these things. So we want to see why these things aren't matched, and we have a nice breakdown of statistics on why things are not matched. And, you know, we work with you on that as well. And the last slide, real easy, but obviously we have a customers tab, so you do manual customer lookups. So within the 3D environment for specific customers, use the tab to perform search queries within 3D. Search company, you know, by name, postcode, registered numbers, your internal reference number, right? Because your internal identifiers would be on here. Or alternatively, you can actually find all companies that are being handled by a specific person in your sales or credit control teams. So if that's a field you want to add to the file you send us, if you have somebody putting naughty deals through and you want to see, you know, why so many of their deals are not sticking, why they're not paying, you know, the analysis can be done from that, as well as, you know, seeing any, again, another type of performance metric on your credit control teams. So do want to thank everybody. Let Nathan kind of jump back in here and, you know, see what sort of questions that we have.
Thanks, Scott. We do have a couple of questions here, and I know we've gone a little bit, we're right up against time, so we'll get these through real quick here. But Scott, thanks for giving us this view and everything. And if you do have any other questions, you will be getting an email after this, which will have my email and everything on it. And you can always ask me a question and I can get it to the right person if I don't know the answer. So Scott, first thing, and I'm reading this, so I'll kind of paraphrase this. Can you explain a little bit more why you would move somebody from a particular company from 3D ledger to monitoring rather than just moving the whole file and just putting everybody into monitoring?
Mostly I've seen it kind of as a short-term fix. It's like, you know, there's a particular category, and in all honesty, the popular thing to do is just taking them all and moving them in, right?
Okay.
There's really two reasons now I think about it. The first reason would be multiple portfolios, right? Or maybe they're under multiple salespeople or credit managers, that I was kind of talking about earlier. You know, there's a reason for the segmentation. Traditionally, what people do is they just want that whole customer list and they want it all to monitoring. But if there's a special project, if there's, again, like I said, multiple divisions, multiple portfolios within a company that you want to track separately and receive separate alerts on, and maybe it's handled by separate people, then that could be why. But you know, kind of the way to go in the traditional company would be one portfolio monitored and put into 3D.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Next question here is, how many levels down can the industry analysis go?
Right now we're at 4-digit SIC code.
Okay.
Okay.
So what
we always
what
take
you
customer.
showed.
Yep. So what I showed there when it kind of expanded the, and you know, and the funny thing is I get asked that question when we first see the high level, and then I click on like, oh, I was going to ask, can we expand that? But right now it's 4-digit SIC code, but you know, we're always taking customer feedback. If anybody wants it further, we could always ping our product team and see what they could do.
Very cool. Okay. And then it says, what does it use and how often does it check to see if the portfolio is getting better? You mentioned the portfolio getting better. I think what they're asking here is like, what are the metrics they're using? Is it just the whole thing, or is it one or two things? And then how often is that checked for that portfolio improvement setup?
Mm-hmm. The unique thing about 3D is that it's something that can be used daily. We have companies who have a piece of software that extract daily out of their accountancy software. It's basically companies who utilize the software for bank transactions. But you can have it installed. It extracts it on a nightly basis out of your accountancy software, and it automatically flows into 3D. So it's a more live, say that 10 times fast, free-flowing thing. So you could have this on a daily basis going into the 3D tool, and it's more of a live instance. Some companies submit a weekly file, some submit a monthly file. So you would be able to tell on a weekly, monthly, or daily basis. And it's when your file is submitted, essentially.
Okay. Okay.
I think does that answer the question, Nathan? I
think so. I think that gives at least a clear thing. If people want more information on that, or if that person wants more information, we can put that in, and they can send us an email. And I know our data team would love to hear this, that that data being sent more often is always more helpful, because it not only helps you as a company, but it helps all the other companies that interact with you to know what's going on, and it's a great thing. So the better you can do there, the more often you can share that, the better it's going to be, not only for you guys, but also for those other companies, which is great. And that's it. I mean, if there's another question or something, send it in real quick while I finish up. But other than that, Scott, thanks so much. I think it's a great tool, and I'm glad that folks could get a chance to see how to use it a little bit better. So thank you again, Scott. And for everybody that's joined us, thank you so much. We appreciate you coming out again and again for these webinars. Hopefully you're getting a lot of value from them. Our next one, normally we have them on Tuesdays and Thursdays. This Thursday, we actually do not have a webinar. But next Tuesday, May 12th, we have a webinar that I'm super excited about, honestly, because we're going to be bringing a panel of experts from Europe to talk about European credit risk insights and COVID. So kind of comparing what's going on in some of the European countries that are doing different things and what the US is doing and everything like that. I'll be hosting that, but Matthew Debbage, our CEO, is actually going to be moderating that panel. So it's going to be a great one. You'll get more information about it on the email when it gets sent out here in the next couple of days, to thanking you for coming to this, and you'll have information there. And then of course, if you're one of our customers, our newsletter, you'll be getting that, or you can always go to creditsafe.com, go up to the upper right-hand corner where it says the B2B guide, and click on that and go to webinars, or just Google search Creditsafe webinars and you will be taken right to that page. So we want to thank you again for joining us, and look forward to talking to you again on May 12th. Thanks so much. Have a great day.